What if a poem could change your brain? Hi, I'm Dr. Macrage, doctor by trade, writer by soul. Today I want to explore what happens in the brain when we read, write or hear poetry, and why it can be profoundly therapeutic. When you read a poem, your brain doesn't sit still. It lights up like a city at night. Not only your language centers in the left hemisphere, but also your emotion and reward networks deep in your limbic system. Even your motor cortex begins to hum along. Studies have shown that poetry activates both Broca's and Wernicke's areas where language lives. It also activates the amygdala and nucleus accumbens where emotion and pleasure bloom. That's why a line that touches you feels like music. Your brain literally releases dopamine, which is the same neurotransmitter that rewards us for love, chocolate, or a favorite song. Poetry then isn't just art. It's a full-body neurological event. It is your brain dancing with rhythm and celebrating meaning. In medicine, we talk about stress responses, cortisol, adrenaline, the fight or flight response. But what happens when you sit quietly and write? When you put emotion into language, the prefrontal cortex helps name the feeling, and naming regulates it. You're moving emotion from the amygdala's raw chaos into the calm space of words. That's why expressive writing and poetry therapy are now being studied in neuroscience labs. Writing doesn't erase the pain, it organizes it. Each line is the mind rewiring itself towards clarity. This is what we call narrative medicine. The idea that telling our story is part of how we heal. Poetry has rhythm because our brains do. Heartbeat, breath, neural oscillations, they are all rhythmic. When you hear a line with perfect cadence, your motor cortex fires as if you are keeping time. Listen to this. Days before I earn my keep, miles to go before I sleep. Notice how your body leans into this rhythm. Your brain loves repetition, and repetition builds memory. That's why we still recall the poems we learned as children. The rhythm of language in poetry is a form of embodied thinking. I first felt this connection between words and healing during my medical training. After long nights on the ward, I wrote a short poem about a patient who passed on. It wasn't polished, it wasn't even good. But as I wrote, I felt my pulse slow. The grief I had that had nowhere to go suddenly had an outlet. So that's when I realized that in the hospital we treat the body, but in poetry we listen to the soul. And the brain doesn't separate the two. When we create, we heal, neuron by neuron or word by word. So, maybe poetry is our oldest form of neuroscience. It is a reminder that feeling and thinking were never actually meant to live apart. I'm Dr. Macrage, doctor by trade, writer by soul. If this resonated with you, kindly like, subscribe, and share. And tell me in the comments what line of poetry has stayed with you. See you next time.